All right, good morning, everyone. Starting today, we are going to go ahead and start looking at the P5 category, and I'm going to be making tutorials on how to efficiently and effectively make a P5, or rather an art map. In today's tutorial, what we're going to be looking at here is going to be the setup. We're going to be looking at basically what you should be doing before you make an art map. So the first thing we're going to do is actually not going to be in the Viprin map editor or the actual literal Transformice map editor. The thing we are going to be doing here today is actually going to be looking at a Photoshop editor or an image editor. So for today's use, we're going to be using GIMP in this tutorial because GIMP is free to use. It is open source. There's a ton of really, really great stuff with GIMP. I think it's a program that anyone should use. It's the one I personally like to use. But yeah, so all you got to go ahead and do here is go to download 2.10.22. If you need to, there's other tutorials online that go into how to use GIMP. You may want to go and look into that because I'm not going to be going into that. I'm going to be going into this assuming you know how to use GIMP, or at least for the most part. And so basically, the first thing that I'm going to have you do here is I'm going to provide what's called an XFC file in the description, and this XFC file will go ahead and give you access to the Transformice backgrounds, every single one of them, okay? And then it's also going to give you access to the Transformice foregrounds. So this right here is the GIMP layout. And so this goes into like if the map is a long map, has like say L equals 1,600. So that's like say for this background, it's the Halloween background. And other than that, this just goes into almost every single background there is. The one background that's missing is the Valentine's Day background, but the Valentine's Day background you actually have to add in manually. So I'm not going to provide that here because, well, there's a ton of issues with it. There's really, the only situation you could really use the Valentine's Day background is if you were making a default map. So for all intents and purposes, you should never be using it for an art map because there's a ton of problems with it. For the most part, though, this has everything. Now you'll notice is that all the backgrounds are double layered up. We're going to go more into this at a later point in time. But the reason why is because each and every single one of the backgrounds has been pixelized by, I believe, a ratio of 5. So for every single 5 pixels there are, it like essentially takes it all and makes it all one color code. And this makes it really nice for color picking. That way, let's say you have this background, right? And you're going to be doing something that involves you to like need the color of the background, right? Well, by pixelizing this, you're effectively getting an average, okay? And so then we can just go ahead and go to the color picking tool, and then bam, well, we got to be on the right layer, but we can go ahead and use the color picking tool, and then bam, now we have the proper color. It'll tell us right here, right there. That'll be the color setting. And so this is what we can go ahead and put into either the actual literal map editor right here, or we can go ahead and put that into the Viprin map editor right here. Bam, just like that. Of course, we need to know the location of where that color is, though, and that is why we have this right here, okay? So the image we're going to go ahead and create here today, I've gone ahead and already pre-prepared it. It's this guy right here. So we're going to be recreating me, or well, not we are, but I am. And I'm going to be basically showing you little tips and tricks while I do that to get you an idea of how to effectively make the art. Okay. And so I have already pre-prepared that right here. Now what I've done is this canvas is 800 by 400. In fact, if we go right here, I had actually commissioned this art, and I specifically asked for the art to be made in a like a ratio of 800 by 400. So this piece right here is 1600 by 800. So all I had to do was go ahead and downsize it by a factor of, what would that be, like 2 to 4, something like that. But I don't know how you would say that, but you get the idea. But basically, this art right here, now I've already done this, but basically what you would want to go ahead and do is just cut it out with the selection tool, and then bam, take one of these backgrounds that you have right here. As you can see, I've used the Cloudy Days 1 background, which is, in my view, this is the best background in Transformice. There are so many good qualities about it. It has the good quality of the this background, where basically all the gradient is all on the y-axis. So that's really great. And then other than that, it also has the additional effect of like, oh hey, it's a grayer background, so there's actually less colors overall. So like it makes it really nice for if you want to go ahead and get an average. So it blends in better effectively. And yeah, so in terms of backgrounds to use, I would always recommend using the cloudy backgrounds. The whatever this one is sunset, I guess, or either one, I don't know, but it's sunset. This guy, though, this one's a little bit harder to use. This one, and then you almost never want to use this one because it has like some border issues. And then here we are. Yeah, there it is. So you'll actually notice that it's, I don't know, like it's not the biggest issue ever, but to me this always like messes me up. I don't like it. Try not to use this one because this one has a lot of different colors basically everywhere, so there's no real good gradient, so there's no real good average. This one, there's no particular issue with it, but you know, it's a long background, so in general I wouldn't recommend using it. And then this one has just like, it's pretty good for the most part at the top, but the bottom, which is where most of the art you tend to see uses, there's no real good gradient. So, which is the other thing there. I didn't mention that, but of course most of your art is going to be down at the bottom, and that's why this background and this background are so good, is that everywhere where there's no real good gradient is all at the top. And then even with the sunset background, most of everything is down at the bottom. Even with this one, it's really just one big thing in the middle. And then even right here, there's a lot of really good things you can do to like hide that there'll be like a line right here, like just sticking it right in the middle. But either way, we need to go ahead and move on. So basically what you want to do is you want to make a new background. So we'll go to new, and then we'll go ahead and just drag this on over here, and then we want to go ahead and do 800 by 400 and then 4,400. Now I've already created that one. You just saw it just a moment ago, so we're not going to go ahead and do that right here, but that's what you would do. And then you just want to go ahead and then copy this just like there. And then you either want to go ahead and then copy it like this, or just go ahead and be more efficient. You can go and copy it like this until it says 800 by 400 down here. So you'll notice if I go and drag this, it'll change the pixel length. So bam, just like that. And then what we can go ahead and do is we can press Control-Shift-C, and then that'll copy the entire area. And then we can just go ahead and say, like, take it and then move it right over here. And then bam, just like that. Now we have everything. Again, though, we're not going to go ahead and do that just yet because we already have it all available. So, essentially, what I have right here is I have a planning stage of everything that I want to go ahead and do. So this is how the art started out, right? Now, what I've gone ahead and done is essentially we took this and then we made this like this. And why is that? That's because if we go right here, the most efficient way to make this tail would be to make this behind section all one background. So this is all stuff you should be thinking about before you actually make the map, okay? And so with the way it is right now, you could easily slip through like right here, right? And so we want to go ahead and just select it all like that, which again, I've already gone ahead and done, so we don't need to do that just yet. But just copy it over and then move it on over, and then bam, just like that, we are all set and ready to go. Another issue with this art that we can see right here is we have this very pointy thing. It's a sword. But pointy stuff doesn't really do well, right? Now, why is this? Because if we go into the Viprin's map editor to make something that is pointy, we need to make it the lines really small. Like this is 5 pixels. This is actually half the length of a ground. If we can actually see this right here, that's 10. So that's really, really small. In fact, you should almost never go below 10 pixels, or well, more specifically 9 pixels, which we'll get into that later on. But you should almost never go below 9 pixels because at that point in time, you are using up less space than what collision you can provide. And of course, collision is another really big issue in the P5 category. You want to make sure your collision is really, really good. And so let's go back here and let's just go ahead and try to simulate this idea of like a pointy sword. Okay, great. Now we have all that, but oh, now we have this middle part. Now we have to fill this in. And so we're essentially taking lines, and we don't want to take lines that only have the purpose of filling in space, because if we do that, then those lines aren't being used. And this problem like continues on and gets harder and harder the smaller we go. And so if I can go ahead and set this here to an even less pixel length, then we can see the issue becomes even bigger because we can't really make this line too much bigger, because if we make it too much bigger, then it'll show when we go and try to cover this area right here. So we can go ahead and do that. See, right there. Now we have a very slight bump, which means that we have to actually use even more lines to cover up everything. So when you can, you want to avoid really pointy stuff, okay? So the way I did that, right, is I went ahead and just edited out that area, and then I went ahead and provided a different one right here, and it has less of a point, but what's going to be important about this one right here is that because there's not, say, going to be any space right here, we could say go ahead and move it right here and then cover up that all with another color to make it easier to essentially like paint over. Let's see here. Other than that, another change. Is there any other changes? Yeah. So this moon right here, you can see I removed all of the lines, and that's really important because like if you have like basically no use for a line, that's again gets into like the idea of like this is how many pixels is this is going to be 1 2 3 4 5, that's 4 maybe 5 pixels. So that's effectively useless on the map. There's like it properly, you shouldn't be even adding collision to stuff that small. So ultimately you might as well just get rid of it. And so that is what we've done. So that's, now we have the fixed, or I don't really want to call it fixed because this was great art, really great art. But this is the art that we've done to essentially optimize it for map making. And then we need to go ahead and ask ourselves, what can we do with this art, okay? Because we want to go ahead and do a couple of things here. We want to make it so that it has dynamic properties, because if a map has dynamic properties, it'll stick in your head better. Like no one really, when they think of a P5 map, they don't really think of a static map with nothing really going on. And this can even include mechanics, by the way. So like, let's say a map has booster grounds. I played a map just the other day that had like minions or whatever, and it did have mech in it. It had the booster grounds, but they didn't move. So ultimately, it was still the same thing. It was just a really boring static map, not a really whole lot going on. There's a couple of things we can go ahead and do in this map to make the art itself move, the art itself be the gameplay, okay? So we need to think about like the idea of like implications in motion, okay? Implications of motion. So like right here we have the moon orbiting Kerbin, or well, I'll just call it Earth for now because that's effectively what this is. But if you know what Kerbin is, great for you. But we have the moon orbiting the Earth, and so obviously that involves motion. So that's actually something we can go ahead and do right here. Now we can't literally make something orbit. There might be some stuff we could go ahead and do to like trick some like idea of like different Z values coming in and out. But for the most part, you're not really going to be able to switch out the Z values of objects, okay? So, but that's fine. We don't need to go all out. We don't need to like make this utterly perfect. What we can do here is we can just make this swing back and forth, and this could easily add some gameplay to this map, right? Because let's say a mouse is coming up this ear, right? And then let's say the cheese is right over here, right? Well, if this moon is swinging by to the left, like whoosh, like that, right? Well, a mouse can actually hit the moon and then gain velocity off of that, because it's the idea of like, oh, hey, well, a person running at 2 miles an hour on a train running at 2 miles an hour is effectively going 4 miles an hour. So when they hit that thing, they're going to go by faster than someone who's just running. And so that already adds some nice gameplay there. But there's another thing we can go ahead and do. But this one, I'm not entirely certain of if we want to go and do this or not. So like this is we're going to call this Moon 2, but it's effectively Minmus. And what this is right here, what we could do is we could put the cheese right in the middle, and then make the entire moon dynamic, and then have it so where you have to push it out of the way, either going to the left or going to the right. But there's another problem with that, right? So that involves something that would slow down and punish anyone who's in first place, okay? And that's a really bad thing right there. If you're punishing the person in first place, that's not gonna feel good to the person who is in first place. That's gonna make someone rage. That would make me rage if I was in this map. So I'm not entirely certain about that, but we definitely want to do something with this right here. because he's holding it, and so maybe his grip is loose or whatever. So even if it's not going to actually do anything with the gameplay, maybe say the cheese is going to be like right here. That's fine. We could just go ahead and then make it so that the actual ball is moving. So like if you get there first, okay, great. Now you have an advantage because now you can get there and then get out of the way. And then if the ball moves out of the way, then now you lose your grip. I don't know, but there's like even just these useless ideas of making something dynamic. It can really add a ton to a map and make it a lot more memorable, which is what you want to do there. You want to make a map really memorable. You want to make it stick in your head, because there are at least 1,000 different P5 maps. So if you want to think about P5, you want your map to be the one that comes up and then leaves an impression in someone. And then there's another thing we can go ahead and do with this map is I've intentionally done this, by the way. So I want to do this where we have the sword basically jump up and down to push mice up and then basically boost them up. That's a really, really good way you can basically make it so that there's like some dynamic gameplay involved into the map, is basically making something jump up and down so that you can just get over something. This was actually used all the way back in the day and is still used to this day. It's a really, really good trick. I'm really surprised not a lot of people, not that many people actually use this trick right there. So what's some other things we can do here? Not necessarily for the gameplay, right? Because it looks like we have a really good idea of gameplay just as is. But what's some ideas of what we can do for the art? Well, for starters, right here we have this hole. So we don't really want to make a loop of art, like some lines or whatever, because that's going to be really inefficient. We could easily do this with like 2 lines, where instead of like I don't know how many lines that would be, that'd probably be like 20, something like that. We could just go ahead and lay one down in the background and then one down here in the foreground, and that's fine, right? That's fine, because ultimately it's probably going to be like right here going up and down like that. So you're probably not really going to be able to see that there is anything going on. So we could just go ahead and make it be the same color of whatever the fur is right here. And then something else is that, again, same thing we talked about here earlier, where we were basically saying is like, oh, hey, we can make this the background. We can also make this right here the background, right? And again, you want to just go through the map and then basically find out all these different things that you can do to more efficiently make the art. The more efficient you make this art, and this is so important, the more efficient you make the art, the less KB you use, kilobytes, and the less kilobytes you use, the more art you can put into the map. So this art piece right here, which is like really detailed, you could make all of it just fine and have the map not lag at all, so long as you're being efficient with how you make it. So a lot of people will end up basically like saying is, oh, hey, well, I'd rather be lazy because I want to have fun. That's fine if you want to have fun, but if you really want to like step up your game, you need to do this efficiently. That's why. So what else could we do? So like take for example the gradient that we have right here. So we already know that we're probably going to go ahead and do something with this where it basically jumps up and down like that. So we could, I guess, make the gradient not be around that area. So we could make it, say, like 4 lines instead of I don't know, the gajillion lines as it would be right now, because at that point you're implying a gradient. So I don't know, maybe we'll make it like 4 lines, something like that. This nose right here we could totally make with like 4 lines. And that is for the most part it. We're going to go through the different kinds of stuff that we can do as we're going, but the main thing you want to go ahead and just do here is just get an idea of like things that you could really efficiently make. Ooh, this is a really good example. A lot of people would think is that, oh hey, we'll go ahead and make like some lines right here, and then we'll make one line, maybe like one line right there, and then we'll make some lines right there. No, one thing we could go ahead and do is make a big line that goes across like this, and then go ahead and make a circle line that goes, and then it's basically a circle, almost a circle, right here, but like really big, and then it's like the blue, and then we can go and take a really skinny line and then place it right there, and then bam, at that point in time we have the same shape. So that's another good example. And then this right here, this is almost a circle. We could easily get away with it by just making it a circle. That's fine. If something is almost a circle, this is something I see so often, it annoys me so much, is when there's an art that is almost a circle, right? If it's almost a circle, just make it a circle. Like, there's really no big issue with that. You don't have to pick a fight with that. And the one last thing I want to mention here, this art uses outlines, and you can use outlines and maps, okay? But for the most part, you really don't want to, because what you're effectively doing is you're taking everything that you have and you're basically doubling up on it, okay? And a lot of times people, what they'll do for outlines is they'll just go ahead and then like make lines that go around it. Don't do that. If you absolutely have to make an outline, right, then ultimately just take, like, we'll take this as a good example, right? Take the line and then make another line under it in the exact same coordinates, and then just make it a little bit bigger. That's fine. I'll even show you right here, right? Let's go ahead and then make a line be 17 pixels because I like the number 17, and we're gonna go ahead and then turn on this right here. Now the Viprin map editor will tell you the coordinates of the line, okay? Although you don't necessarily need them, but you might need them for if you have like a ton of lines all in one space, right? So if we go ahead and make that a little bit bigger, it's probably a lot bigger, but whatever. If we go ahead and then reduce the values of that right there, in terms of the color values, and make that like really dark, then bam, at that point in time we have a outline, and we don't have to like go around that and then just essentially like cause like there to be like, I don't know, 15 times as many lines. You can see how that would easily add up. And then another thing you want to go ahead and do here is the Z value. So this is the last thing I want to talk about before we move into the next part. You want to make sure, like, whatever the most amount of lines is on, you want to make sure that is on the 0if value or none, okay? Because let's take a look right here. If we go ahead and have it as it is right now, which is on the 0th value, then we are at 0.9 kilobytes, okay? If we go ahead and change that over to 1, that already went up, right? And then even more, right, if we go ahead and then change that over again, but we go to 11, or 10, the 10th Z value, that should go up even more. It didn't go up there, but it's in larger numbers it probably would. So effectively you want to use the 0th value, and then if you're adding on dynamic properties to the map, you should not have more than 10 or no 9 dynamic properties onto a map, because at that point in time there you have to use the 10th value, which, I mean, really, I can't think of any reason why you would need more than a 9 dynamic properties in a map. And then most often cases what you see is you'll see people take where the most often case you'll see where they're using 10 or above is they just want to be lazy about it. They want to take like the ground that they already have after editing the map, right? And they just want to go ahead and add some kind of a dynamic property to it then, right? But you don't do that. It's not worth it. Okay, it's just not worth it at all. So, and in the next part, we are going to be actually literally recreating the art. But what I want to go ahead and tell you to do right now is take whatever the image is that you're working on here. In our case, we're going to be using this image right here. And you just want to go ahead and then print out different stuff involving it. So like, let's say we have this right here. If we go up and then copy the link, right, we can go ahead and put it in right here. And then it'll first say that the image doesn't exist. It always does that. Just go and put it in again, and then bam, you are all good. Everything is all nice and squeezy. So anyway, so you can see right here that I have the same exact image on GIMP, except on GIMP I have pixelized it by a ratio of 5. Okay, so this is what I was saying, where I was saying we would go back more into this later. But once we start going on this in the next part, you'll notice is that what I'm doing is I'm taking this and then just like clicking it and going into different areas and saying like, oh hey, well, this color is this color, so bam, just like that, bam, this eye color is that blue, bam, right there, all that. It makes it really nice and easy to average out a color, because ultimately we're not going to be using really big gradients in the MIPRN's map editor. We're just going to be using solid colors, and so that makes it really nice and easy to use, because ultimately I think like 5 pixels is what is that? That is 1/80th of the Y value of the map, something like that. So, I mean, if you're going at 1 pixels, that's 5 times that. So you have 5 times 1/80th of the area to do it. If you want to do it even at 10 pixels, that's even better. But ultimately, I think 5 pixels is the good, nice middle ground of where you want to go. So, but yeah, I think that's where we'll go ahead and end this video here today, because that is all the prep work we're really going to need to go and do. Again, though, you may want to go ahead and look into how to use GIMP before doing all this, but I would just recommend using whatever program you feel comfortable with. But if you use GIMP, the XFC file I'm going to be giving out that involves these backgrounds right here, it is going to be using a GIMP file for it. Okay. But I am actually going to be making the images here separately available in a thread that you'll find in the map editor section. All right. So anyway, other than that, have a great day, everyone, and I hope to see you in the next part.